we played outside all the time. And then as I went to school in Utah, I had to fall in love with climbing, right? It's Utah.
Perfect.
And so, 2 minutes from the university, you're up in the canyon, you're up climbing. And so I picked up climbing from that, which was fun because at the time I was a poor student. But it's probably where a little bit of my sustainability kicked in because as I was walking past a building they were refurbishing, I looked in the trash and there was a ton of copper wire in there. And I understood that copper wire was worth money in recycling. And so I would ask them, I said, can I take this out of the trash and go recycle? And they're like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. And so I actually ended up recycling enough copper to buy my harness, to buy my draws, to buy a rope, all from this building refurb. So rather than see that copper go to the landfill and rot, I was able to recycle it and enjoy climbing with it. I get several that come to me often and say things like, I don't want to design more junk. I don't want to add to the problem. Is there room for me? What can I do? Just go ahead and start designing from trash. One of the first things you can do is just take a trash can, try to find a not so smelly one, but just dump it out and look at what people are discarding and what product would you make from that. And really help them understand that we've got great products that can be made from just everyday things. But then as you do that, you start to make decisions about sustainability. So when you do start designing other products, not from upcycled products, but think about how that could turn into something else. And so I think just really viewing sustainability right from the upfront portion of design and iterating on it will make you just a better designer for the space because you'll be making those decisions at the beginning and not at the end of the process. So.
Awesome. Hello everybody, my name is Ricky Muñiz, and in this episode of El Viaje I have the company of Andrew Deceuster, a designer, a climber, mountain biker, and he runs an outdoor product design department in Utah, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Welcome, man.
Well, thank you.
I would like to start to talk to you like from your beginnings to where does your interest comes like towards design.
So for me, design started really early.
Okay.
And I would say it almost came from a love of prototyping and playing in the garage. So I'd go in the garage all the time when I was really small, take stuff apart, put stuff back together.
Awesome.
Get into my dad's wood piles, get into whatever, and just start making things. And so from an early on age, I was always out there playing and making stuff. And then as I grew into more of a teenager, into high school, I took...
So this was real early on.
Yeah, this was really early on. I always loved tools, always loved making things.
And you had the influence of any family member, or like were those tools at home?
Most of my family at home was not handy whatsoever.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
They were very business oriented. And so for me, my grandfather was very much in the woods lab or wood shop, making things, doing things.
Awesome.
And so I kind of followed in his footsteps. And so when I got to high school, I could finally start taking design classes.
Great.
And learning how to draw, learning how to draft. Excuse me. And learn how to use some of the computers to do what it was. But that was still very early on in the computer age.
In the computer era, yeah.
Still doing a lot by hand. And so really fell in love with it then. And then I got to college and thought design, didn't know anything about industrial design, had never heard about it.
Okay.
So I thought engineering was, they're the ones who design and make things. So I kind of went into the engineering realm and went through as kind of a design engineer.
Awesome.
And then just kept working my way up.
Nice.
From there. And so I've worked in the archery industry, love designing there, worked on bikes. Especially.
So it's being handy, you would get handy into all the accessories into the sports that you were practicing. Like, did you practice archery?
No, surprisingly, no.
No, really?
But I got the chance to then pick it up while I was designing in there. So
nice.
It was kind of fun because it really led to more out-of-the-box thinking.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't from that industry, I didn't understand it, so I'd have to ask a lot of basic questions, which was great because then it allows you to then challenge some of the paradigms. And so you say, well, why do you do it this way? And they're like, well, we don't know why we do it that way. It's just how the first person did it, so we always just copied.
That's
And so you get that new way of looking at design when you come into an industry you don't understand.
exactly. Yeah, and that's something that it's a reality for a designer and architects and everything. Like each project is a new challenge, and that's could be part of the fun of it. And where did you grow up? I think you grew up in California, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in San Jose, the South Bay area of
Okay.
California, and grew up playing in the mountains there, the coastal mountains, and going up to Lake Tahoe for mountain biking and all that. And
So your lifestyle was outdoor oriented mostly since the beginning, or not?
yeah, for the most part in the beginning, we played outside all the time, and then as I went to school in Utah, I had to fall in love with climbing, right? It's Utah. And
Perfect.
so, 2 minutes from the university, you're up in the canyon, you're up climbing. And so I picked up climbing from that, which was fun because at the time I was a poor student. But it's probably where a little bit of my sustainability kicked in because
Okay.
as I was walking past a building they were refurbishing, I looked in the trash and there was a ton of copper wire in there. And I understood that copper wire was worth money in recycling. And so I would ask them, I said, can I take this out of the trash and go recycle? And they're like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. And so I actually ended up recycling enough copper to buy my harness, to buy my draws, to buy a rope, all from this building refurb. So rather than see that copper go to the landfill and rot, I was able to recycle it and enjoy climbing with the
that's
proceeds.
pretty awesome. I think that's one of the things I wanted to talk with you, that yesterday you said in the conference that not all recycling is just the plastic bottle or all these accessories that are what most people think of, that it also applies to that bent nail that you normally discard, throw in the trash, and that's metal that can be reused and that can be recycled. So from early on you started grasping that, like the real the complexity of it, or how what really is reusing and like extending the life of a product.
Yeah, exactly, because I think one of the biggest things we run into just as designers or even just users is we get so accustomed to how something is supposed to work or supposed to be that we don't think of another way for it to possibly be. And so that's why I say everyone's quick to recycle their cans, their bottles, but bent nails from the woods area or scrap
the copper
metal,
wire.
Yeah, copper wire. They're just saying, oh, garbage, throw it in the trash because it doesn't match the pictures on the can.
What?
And so we have to do a better job educating people on what can be recycled, what can be reused, so we can make new products. And help do it, because recycled metals especially use way less energy to recycle. I think my wife was telling me the actor from Aquaman is now coming out with his own line of water that comes in aluminum cans instead of plastic water bottles because it's easier to recycle the aluminum cans. It's easier to do that. And so it's interesting to see.
For example, in Puerto Rico, aluminum is recycled and plastic is recycled, but glass is not recycled, and certain because technology is not locally. So it's pretty cool that I know there's other like box water also coming out, like instead of plastic bottle in cardboard container.
Instead of plastics.
That's pretty cool. And at what point in your while you were growing up did you find out about industrial design?
So it wasn't until I was about most of the way through my 4-year degree in college.
I started 2 years of engineering, and then my second year was when I found out about that.
Yeah, and so it wasn't until I started looking at graduate school.
Okay.
And I saw this title, industrial design. I'm like, well, what's that?
Nice.
And so that's when I kind of learned what industrial design was, and kind of fell in love with more. I mean, I love the technical side of engineering design, which is fun, and more the heavy-duty manufacturing that I've done a lot of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I love just seeing people sketch and do their just design iterations, which is more what you're going to get with industrial design.
Yeah, the part of ideation and the part of prototyping, which goes back to you since a small kid.
Yeah, exactly. And engineers, we tend to always focus on function rather than form. And so you think if you just put a simple fillet on it, it's now designed. You're like, no, that's aesthetically, it's still awful looking.
Yeah.
And so it's really learning aesthetics and how that affects people's emotions, how they interact with it, how it feels. Is really fun to see more of that human interaction side that you get.
And up to that point, you were mostly into engineering and technical part. Like I know you talked a lot about yesterday in the conference about manufacturing processes and molding and the structural capacities of the materials. Like, was that like your background before going into industrial design?
Yeah, so basically through most of all school, through undergrad and graduate,
Okay.
I did a lot of manufacturing-based research, a lot of manufacturing-based coursework, and it's fun to see because that does take a huge toll on how you might make something, or people's information. I mean, greenwashing is a big term used where we think it's something friendly, but it's really not. And so I have to discuss with my students all the time, like recycled nylon for swimwear.
Okay.
I say, they're like, well, it's recycled, so it's got to be good. I'm like, well, no, because you got to find out how it was recycled. Was it thermally recycled? Was it chemically recycled? You're losing strengths or properties. It breaks down in water, so why are you using it for swimwear? This is really more of a fabric for something in a
dry location.
Yeah, dry location type thing. It's like you should be using recycled polyester for your swimwear or something else. It's not going to break down, last longer, and things like that. Because I tell them examples just of swimwear I've had. That if it was recycled nylon, 3 months it's falling apart. But if it's polyester, it goes years.
Forever, and like the threads go forever.
Yeah, and so it's choose a classic style that will be in style for years.
Yeah, I think like that. Like for example, in our community, everything is focused just in like, we need to recycle, and like I think it's definitely true, but that is like I think about like, first you need to reduce reduce how much material or how much impact you're doing, like then try and like that material or that, like for example I make surfboards. Surfboards are not the most sustainable product, but at least my point of view is I try to make the most durable surfboard and try and make one. It's not the most cost effective and not good for business, but like at least that makes it like I make one board in forever, and like unless you're buying for buying, like you don't, that board is good. So now you're in Utah, right? You run what are you, like director of department or?
So I'm the director of the outdoor product design and development program there in Utah. And so it's a lot of fun. I got about 200 students in our program. They're learning everything from apparel design to soft products, tent bags, sleeping bags, backpacks, all that kind of stuff, into the hard product realm with bikes, skis, snowboards, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. I really never know one day to the next what I'm going to have to help students with. So it's fun to show up to class and like, I guess we're making this today.
And Utah has a pretty big outdoor lifestyle, like in the community, right? It's like climbing, snowboarding, and
so we got
hiking.
a huge biking community. We've got both road and mountain. Got a huge climbing community, skiing, snowboarding, so big one there. We have quite a bit of lakes, so we got a lot of water sports as far as lakes, so water skiing, wakeboarding, those kinds of fun things. Lots of hiking, camping, just getting out into the middle of nowhere. So it's a lot of fun. I take my kids out all the time now, and we go backpacking just into the mountain lakes and have fun seeing wildlife.
That's
occasionally
great.
See some bears or things like that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So and they have my kids have a great time, and it's Utah is really big into the outdoor scene, and you got a lot of good brands that have popped up. So it'll be fun to see. There
was a really big like expo, like outdoor expo or conference there, right, in Utah?
So we had the outdoor retailer show. That was there in Utah, and then we had some political issues that couldn't fully be addressed, I guess, over public lands and things like that. And so O.R. felt it in their interest and the interest of their supporters to move the show to Denver and and so now outdoor retailers there in Denver, and so Utah's finding other things to try to fill the void. But
Cool.
yeah, we were sorry to see him go. It was
Yeah.
convenient for us and the students. So
Yeah.
at the same time, it's fun for the students to get to Denver and see a new city, a new culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. With now, you mentioned like now there's more of a sustainable movement, and part of it is the greenwashing and this and that. But in your point of view, how do you see like the industry moving towards sustainability, or like what's your point of view right now in terms of how like companies are already like changing or not changing their customs, and how do you see like younger generations like students bringing these new points of views?
Yeah, so it's an interesting take because it's something I wish we'd have had 20 years ago or talked about.
Yeah.
30 years ago, more mainstream. But the students on their end, they're very conscious about it.
Okay.
I get several that come to me often and say things like, I don't want to design more junk. I don't want to design, like, I don't want to add to the problem. Like, is there room for me? What can I do?
Yeah, it's like you're coming into an industry trying to make become successful, but you don't want to become part of the consumer product
exactly. So
excess.
That's the problem is you
Yeah.
want to protect the outdoors, and really there should be less products. But at the end of the day, a company needs to make money by selling
Yeah.
products. So how is that going to? So a lot of them are switching to the idea of upcycled products.
Great.
So how do I design those? Are there companies out there doing it? And I tell them it's still kind of grassroots level with upcycle. Like upcycle is a great business opportunity for people to get into and figure out new ways to repurpose products into new products or refurbish the product. One of the big things too is repair, and we're seeing that that's actually more cost effective than replacement. And a lot of what I think the younger culture gets behind now is story. They want the story. And so when you repair that jacket and it's got that seam or that patch on there, it tells a story. So people are like, it's like scars.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how'd you get that in your puffy jacket?
It's like you it's like a badge of honor.
Yes.
In a
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
Yeah, I love about that, like the warmer idea, and which is like that, like it grabs the stories of these products or these people, like they took it a little bit further, and it's great because it represents that, like if it's a jean, why buy an extra jean when just like sewing an inch of a hole like can extend maybe 5 more years of life.
Exactly. And so some of the brands we work with are very interested to jump in, and we've got one brand that wants to talk to us about educating the consumer on self-repair.
Okay.
Because you want to let them know, because as I talked about in the conference about educating the user.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, well, if you send me your jacket that has CO2 attached to it, right? Okay. Carbon be emitted to ship it, cost of shipping it, for me to repair it, for me to ship it back. Well, yeah, we got you your jacket repaired, but at the same time, all this extra CO2 went out. Well, if it's something simple, can I produce some training, literature, videos, and actually send you thread and needle, which would be cheaper because it's much smaller, less impact, but then actually teach you how to stitch that back together on your own and as an option. So if you want to minimize that impact, here's one option. If not, send it to us.
And it can replicate into other 10 more repairs or 20 more repairs because you already learned the craft.
Yeah, you learn the craft once, and then now you're a little more comfortable, like, huh. And my daughters will do that all the time. Like
that's awesome.
Something, a strap broke or something's coming undone, and they just run downstairs, get on the sewing machine, which is now permanently set up in our office.
Really?
But they'll sew that hole back together, and on they go. And I kind of said that in the conference. My bag, I noticed a hole in the corner just before coming to the airport, so I emptied it out, turned it inside out, stitched that hole closed, put everything back in.
No more problem.
Good to go for another, hopefully a little while.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think that's like maybe you coming from your beginnings, you decided to be craft handy and crafty about stuff, and I think if more people would grow up with that connection to being crafty and like fixing or breaking stuff and and keep connected to that, it will be more into the repair like it would be more accustomed to people to repair and like extend the life of products. But right now it's like completely disconnected from like sometimes like I realize when I started in industrial design, like what made me realize is what like all these products are made by somebody. Like you just need to have the tools, have the access to the know, like do your research, have the knowledge, and go through it. I had a similar background like you. My grandfather, and great grandfather had shops.
Yeah.
They were into woodwork, so I grew up sneaking into the rooms, and then my mother did some like artisanal stuff. So I grew up into that handy. So it was easy for me afterwards.
Yeah.
But then like I want to come back a little bit into the industry. Another thing, connecting the like abilities of people to be handy and the situation, like modern technology and how design now it's more oriented sometimes into 3D modeling or more to the technical aspects, because it's you can do so much more in the computer now. Like how would you see that, like, and how much do you push your students to do the prototyping part? Like how do you see that part right now?
I still have them do a ton of prototyping because I think there's a lot of good information learned.
Yeah.
I think it actually now complements the computer. As an example, in our apparel kind of side, or even the soft product side,
Okay.
We have some like 3D apparel design software.
Cool.
And so I had a student, she wanted to make a dry suit for river rafting because she was tired of them being very masculine, looking like a boy going down the river. She wants to look like
Which
a
is
female.
something that happens in all climbing industry.
Yep.
Like something that I hear.
So a lot of it is all designed initially for males, and then females join
Adapted
in,
slightly.
and all they do is they change the color pink or purple, and say, "Oh, I see, we got
girls."
we got the girls line,
Yeah.
the female line." And so she wanted something that was more cut and fit for a female.
Nice.
And so she designed the whole dry suit in this 3D design software. But then to take it to the physical, she's able to export it, take it to our laser cutter, cut out all the pattern pieces, and then sew it together. And then she could fit it on. She said, "Oh, this is a little big, this is a little big." Go back to the computer, make the adjustments in the computer, laser cut, sew, and she was able to iterate numerous times till she finally got the fit right.
That's awesome.
And then she said, "Okay, now I got the fit right. Let me add all the aesthetics that I want to do." And so she started putting aesthetics in, and then she would sew and realize, "Oh wait, this fabric doesn't flex.
Doesn't stretch.
I need more stretch here. So I'm going to replace this event with something different, and or lessen it or change the angle so I get more stretch from this."
That's great. So yeah, even having all the tools of the technology, it's going back. Like I think it's essential to go back to the prototyping, but it's cool to see that it's constant, because I think that's where you get to try really the products and like have the connection of your hand with the material and like and the feeling.
Because at the end of the day, it's still about a human interaction with the product. And so if we're not
that's what it's all gonna be at the end.
And so when you prototype, you get that same experience, and so you can see what it's going to be like and kind of put yourself in what your customer's experience would be like. And if we don't do that, then you're kind of guessing, and you can tell when a bad product was launched. I mean, that was the big issue with Google Glass. If you remember Google Glass from years ago, the wearable computer, and people would look at you like, "Who are you talking to?" And why that silly thing on your face?
And you would see, I think that they would see some kind of reflection that would look weird.
And so they just never really played with it enough to understand, I think, that human interaction.
Oh, okay.
And so they pulled the project, and maybe one day they'll bring it back. But that's the idea, is we really want to, just with these outdoor products, because you are using them to go in the outdoors, we really want to make sure that they're prototyped and tested. And
it was pretty interesting to me. You mentioned something about, I forgot exactly the name in English, but it was about an AI technology that it's used now for the structural part of designs. So that's what I ask you, like, in what sense, like some like people might then be like tending more towards using that and say like, okay, that's right, let's just do that instead of prototyping. But it's really amazing technology. It looks great.
It's amazing, and like I said, what really happens with products is that we kind of, like, from a historical standpoint, let's take metal products.
Uh-huh.
So you had your mills and your lathes you made most products on. So they were either round because they came off a lathe, or they were square because they came off a mill, because you manually could only do it. It's like etch a sketch.
Exactly.
And so to get a perfect curve, you couldn't do it because no one could turn the handles just right to get a curve. Well, when we see computers integrate in through CNC controls, all of a sudden now we can put organic kind of shapes and curves. But we're still limited as far as where that tool can go.
Okay.
And now with additive 3D printing, the metals side becoming more acceptable and producing better parts. Now with the AI or generative design, you can take multiple components, combine them into one part,
Wow.
and then just use the 3D printing technology to then print the part. And you didn't have to worry about how am I going to make this, because a lot of those designs, if you look at them, are super complicated.
Yeah.
There's no way to make them without.
Yeah, you cannot adapt it to any manufacturing process.
No.
It's like this mold process will work for this area, but not for this area.
Yeah.
And no, that's amazing. It's generative.
Yeah, generative design.
Generative design. That's really amazing, and I hadn't heard about it, but it's pretty cool. Like to see the possibilities of it, and so how like I saw you were working of like the example was like a motorcycle frame.
Yeah.
Like how big of a part, like a single piece part, can like you print right now on a like something that is available in the industry?
So on some of the metal printers, they're getting bigger.
Okay.
They're a little bit small right now. They're still maybe a foot by a foot. But the idea is you can print several pieces and weld them together. There's other ones that print really big, and they're sand molds.
Okay.
And so they can handle all the complexities of generative design, and then you pour your aluminum, your steel, whatever it might be, into those molds, and then you can break them out, which is nice. And then you can do big things that are several feet by several feet.
That's awesome.
And produce that bike frame in a single casting type thing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So as the software continues and as the manufacturing and the physical both,
they'll grow together.
They grow together, and
Suddenly we'll be able to print a car or something, like a car
exactly.
body fully in one part or something like that.
Exactly.
That's crazy. You know, it's amazing how technology is growing. AI, how it's like exponentially advancing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Exactly, and even then, it's still a more sustainable approach in that sense, because
no excess.
We're only bonding the metal powder together where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Instead of starting with a giant block and removing all the metal, now I can take all that powder, reuse it for the next part, and keep going.
Yeah, that is like super good aspect of it, like the sustainable part of like no excess of material, basically. That's amazing. What would you think, like we're almost getting to the, like I want to start getting to the end, but two more questions. What would be in the industry, what would you think would be the thing most left out in terms of thinking towards sustainability, like packaging? Like I know already materials have been like, now it's more common, like brands are developing materials specifically for a product, or recycling fishing nets to manufacture a textile to be used in other stuff. Like what would you consider, what area of like consumer products of manufacturing would you think would be the most left out, the most forgotten in terms of sustainability?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say I think you can find sustainability in almost any of those areas.
Okay.
I think the problem is just not thinking about it right from the get-go. I think what it tends to be in almost any industry is it becomes an afterthought.
Okay.
We don't think about, okay, this product, where's it going to go when we're done with it? Like, I don't think many people think about it. And so they say, oh, cool, I made this tent. Well, when it gets a hole and it wears out, what do we do with it? Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
put it in the garbage, I guess.
99% of the people put it in the garbage and buy another tent when they need another one.
And so there's no real plan in place, and I think that's a huge aspect of sustainability. And then material choices, because it's like, if as a consumer, for me, just because of my knowledge and background, I would rather either pay a little more or have a heavier piece of gear or have it a little more cumbersome if I knew it was a much more sustainable option. And so I think just again coming back to some of that educating of the consumer.
Yeah, that's what I
is-
was thinking. Education maybe is the thing we forgot about. Like
Yeah.
we're saying, like you need to recycle, but there's no education behind it.
There's no link to it, and I like the stance that REI is kind of taken.
Yeah.
Because they took the choice out of the hands of the consumer. Because normally the consumers are the ones that demand whatever. Well, if they're not just demanding sustainable options, and we're in an industry that's demanding sustainability, maybe it's time that the retailers like REI
Start.
take control of it and say, well, okay, the only way you're selling to us is if you take a sustainable approach. Because the consumer's voice isn't being heard. We have the money or the buying power, so our voice will be heard.
And they had like a few requirements. One of them being like fair and safe trade, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like even considering like what the employee that is working with your materials, like
Yeah.
what more or less are the like requirements, like for example in that like fair and safe trade considerations.
Yeah, so it was your supply chain. You had to show the sustainability in your supply chain.
Well, yeah.
Ethical treatment of the animals. And so you may have seen that photo of the live plucked goose, and it's just like you can't do stuff like that. It's not ethical. And so they just want to make sure that everything is sustainably sourced, and then you kind of meet these benchmarks for sustainability. And so by them demanding it, now the consumer's getting a better product or a more sustainable product. And they were really good to work with their major brands, not just the big chains, but also the small chains. And so to work with them, like, hey, this is where we're going, this is what it's going to be. We want to help you get there because we want more sustainable products, because we want the earth to still be available for outdoor recreation. Because that's the biggest thing is, in a consumer product, if you destroy the earth trying to make, more TVs, no one's going to pay attention because they're inside watching TVs.
Yeah.
But if you're destroying the earth and your products are outdoors and you're going outdoors and seeing the destruction done,
It's completely opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so you see either those landfills, you see the clear-cut forests, you see the drilling and the open pit mines, things like that just become giant eyesores, and destroy your areas to keep recreating in, polluted water, things like that.
Yeah, no, I think I agree exactly in that sense that it's gonna take a big part of the decisions, like brands like REI, Patagonia. You showed a really good video yesterday, Go Light, which was about the story. Like they shared the story of the plastic bottle, I think it was, and that connects you to the materials circle of life or whatever, or like not circle of life, the cycle of life,
circular economy.
Yeah. So it's gonna take a lot of from who's making the products to take decisions, smarter decisions, and influenced by designers that will be like opposed to designing stuff for the outdoors when it's counterproductive towards their market.
Exactly. And where that circular economy kind of starts is with the designer. And so the designers need to be educated. They need to really understand. So something I hope that schools will keep pulling in is more curriculum on sustainability, helping them make more sustainable choices. Are we using organics? Are we using natural dyes instead of synthetic dyes?
Exactly.
And that's why I say if my bag loses color because I had it as a natural dye, it's not going to bother me.
I don't want stuff to fall from the bag because it has a hole, which is the most important. That you can sew and fix the hole, even if it's like worn out.
Exactly. And so because people want colors, things like that, we got to come up with new solutions for it, because we can't all, I guess, not everyone would be happy with just a white cotton bag.
Yeah.
So we got to come up with better solutions for the colors and things like that. But I think helping designers really understand that, and then helping the consumer understand it, so the consumer demands the more sustainable product, and the designers delivering
a lot of small decisions that will make the good on the long term. That's hopefully starts to happen more, because as you said, we hope that it had started happening 20 years ago, but it's a little bit too late. Hopefully now we just can do get it more out there. I wanted to ask you, how much curriculums of outdoor product design are there aside from the Utah one? Is it common or
So,
not?
Not super common. We've seen a more uptick. So
Nice. Awesome.
ours is really focused on design and development of products.
Perfect.
Oregon has a couple. They're starting one at Oregon State in product as well, but more focused from an engineering standpoint, so more the hard product, I think. I'm not totally sure. We'd have to look it up. Then University of Oregon has their sports management masters, which kind of focuses on sports and outdoor type stuff. Western Colorado has MBA in outdoor business management type thing. So we're starting to see more and more. I think Colorado's starting a program. I mean, traditional, there were designers and they just had to focus on the outdoor, but their coursework might not have focused on it, or there wasn't much about sustainability and things like that. Because there's always been somebody designing outdoor products.
Yeah.
But as far as official programs, they've started recently. Ours started 4 years ago.
Nice.
And so others have come out since now. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great because it's definitely gonna put more the topic of sustainability as a priority in terms of design decisions and stuff. So that's pretty nice. And like, you're here in the island because of the group of P.R.O.R.I.A and Arquitectura, La Poly architecture curriculum, right? Like P.R.O.R.I.A is Puerto Rico Outdoor Recreation Industry Association, a long one, but yeah, that's basically what their intention is, to try and promote the outdoor industry as a whole, not just the services of exploring the island, but considering us as designers and promoting the schools of design to get into this. And what you brought is definitely an inspiration for the students and other people, because it's something that we need to like grasp it, that it's the reality and it's on us to work on the designs and take smarter decisions. And that's pretty cool. So thank you for coming here, and nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate them having us out and taking us around, showing us a lot of fun stuff. Really love the island.
Yeah, no, now it's the fun part starts, right? now like I always like to end with like more or less with what words would you say for a young student or young designer or aspiring designer that would like to get into the industry with a sustainable mindset? Like, what would you say to that person?
So I would say to that person, just go ahead and start designing from trash. One of the first things you can do is just take a trash can and try to find a not so smelly one, but just dump it out and look at what people are discarding and what product could you make from that, and really help them understand that we've got great products that can be made from just everyday things. But then as you do that, you start to make decisions about sustainability. So when you do start designing other products, not from upcycle products, but think about how that could turn into something else, because you're so used to taking things and making them something else that you can look at your product and figure out how it could be something else. And so what might you add or take away to make it better for becoming something else? Or how much easier can I take it apart so it can be recycled, so I can educate that consumer? And so I think just really viewing sustainability right from the upfront portion of design and iterating on it will make you just a better designer for the space, because you'll be making those decisions at the beginning and not at the end of the process. So
awesome. Yeah, so awesome, dude. That's great. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we get to collaborate at some point or cross over at some part around the world. But thank you for your time, and keep promoting sustainability and good design around your students and on your own work. So thanks for everything, man.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Until next time, remember you can follow us on YouTube, podcast applications, and Facebook at elviaje.tv. And that's all. Until next time. Yes. Gracias, mano. Thank you, dude.
Thanks.